Well, hello, and may the Lord bless you today, wherever you are listening to this message and whoever you are. I'd like to share a couple of thoughts from the story of Jesus walking on the water from Matthew's Gospel and chapter 14. We all know the story about Jesus sending his disciples across the lake. And it says that in the 4th hour, middle of the night, basically, Jesus decides to walk out to them. They see Jesus coming from a distance and they start to get afraid because this is the middle of the night and they can see this figure of a man walking towards them, and they automatically assume that it would not be Jesus because surely it's impossible for Jesus to walk through the storm to them. So they cry out in fear, thinking that he's a ghost. But Jesus in his mercy and in his love reassures them that it is actually him. The story goes on to tell us that Peter cries out to the Lord and says, "If it really is you, Lord, then give me permission to walk to you on the water." Now Peter showed great faith in doing this because it ain't a natural thing for us to get out of a boat where it's safe and where we have our friends around us, our companions, and to walk out into the storm. You know, sometimes in life we may find ourselves thinking that we have enough faith to leave the companions surrounding us, to leave the safety of where we are, and to step out and to be bold and to do something for the Lord. And there's nothing actually wrong in that, because if the Lord didn't want Peter to exercise his faith, he would have told him to stay in the boat. But the Lord wanted Peter to grow in faith, so he commanded him to come to him. Now the trouble was, Peter, when he got out the boat and started to walk towards the Lord, that he started to look around him. And he started to see just how troublesome and how violent the storm really was. It was so bad that Peter started to become afraid and he started to lose faith. And, you know, me and you, as we leave the comfort zone, as we step out in faith, doing something for the Lord, whatever it may be, that sometimes we can get afraid. Sometimes we can think that, no, the storm that is raging around us is too great, that we can't make it, that our faith will not take us through, that even though we heard the Lord's voice telling us to come out of the boat, telling us to walk forward in faith, we doubt. And we look at the circumstances around us and we start to sink. But you know, as soon as Peter started to sink, he did a very wise and sensible thing. He called out to the Lord. He called out, and the Lord in his mercy and his grace stretched out his arm and grabbed a hold of Peter. And you know, when we find ourselves, you know, in life, in circumstances, struggling, when we find ourselves beginning to sink with the pressure of all that's going on around us, we have to be wise and we have to call out to the Lord. You know, Peter could have easily thought to himself, maybe I could swim back to the boat. But no doubtly Peter would have drowned it. And if me and you think that, you know, we can make it back to where we was, we're greatly mistaken, because each day is a new day with the Lord. And we must continue to walk forward with the Lord and never think that we can go back to where we was. But when we do cry out, the Lord is merciful to stretch out his arm and to save us. What is also very interesting in this story, that once the Lord had taken a hold of Peter by the hand, the Lord just didn't make the wind stop straight away and the wind and the rain cease, but he actually walked Peter all the way back to the boat through the storm. And upon the water, Peter walked the rest of the way back to the boat upon the water with the Lord. And it's a great sign to me and you that when we cry out to the Lord, he won't make everything disappear. He won't make all the problems go away. He won't answer all our questions, but what he will do, he will uphold us. He will strengthen us. He will take us by the hand and he will guide us back to safety. And he will lead us through the storm, even though we do have very little faith. And the reassuring thing is this, that when we do call out to the Lord, he is merciful and gracious.